Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the second video being made for pre-algebra students in order to finish up their first credit of math and get themselves on a better start for their sophomore year. We're working currently on goal 3. The last video dealt entirely with family 1, and now I want to talk a little bit about some of the other stuff. We've very briefly talked about how you solve proportions, and I want to go into a little bit more in depth. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to give you guys a very loose introduction to percents, because the next major thing we're going to be doing is a lot of conversion between percents and decimals and all the possible iterations you can get in between the two. So first thing we want to talk about is understanding proportions. We talked about this very briefly in the prior video, but if you haven't seen that one yet, this is an old hat from middle school. You might remember it before the dark times, before the pandemic. What we're going to do is something called cross computer pen tool. What just happened? Are you going to work now? Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. Right, take 2. That was embarrassing. Okay, where was I? Yes. So when you're dealing with proportions, they generally speaking are going to look like this, and you'll eventually figure out that this is low-key. Kind of the bread and butter of goal 3 is setting up something that looks like this kind of proportion. And the thing that we want to do is, from middle school, cross multiply. So what that means is cross means we're going across the equal sign. So the U and the 10 in this first example, they are across from each other, air quotes. And then the 4 and the 5 are across from each other. In high school, we don't usually go into that much detail. We just kind of say, yeah, you cross multiply and then start going. The next thing about cross multiplying is the word multiply itself. So you need to know your math facts for this, or you're using one of the calculators in my classroom. In this particular case, because this is literally labeled basic in the topic title, theoretically, this might actually exist in your head. So U times 10 is just 10U, because we can't simplify that because that's a variable, and we're going to get into that more in goal 4. Then we have 4 times 5, which is 20. Now, in order to get U by itself, what we need to do is to get rid of this 10. The thing for this is that is a multiply, so it's 10 times U. In order to get rid of it, you need to undo the multiplication. The opposite, in other words, you want to do the opposite of multiplication, which is, of course, division. And now if I divide this side by 20, what do I get with 20 divided by 10? Well, Ms. Dubois has a little shortcut. The zeros cancel each other out. I'm left with 2 over 1. Or if you're lazy like Ms. Dubois, you can just write the number 2, and there's your answer. Similarly over here, now take note, it does say simplify your answer as much as possible. We got lucky here because we got a whole number. Fingers crossed that it will be just as easy further down the road, but keep that in mind. We're going to cross multiply here. U times 6 is just U times 6. What I'm going to do over time, I'm for now writing the multiplication symbol between the 6 and the U, but it's not uncommon, especially in the higher levels of math, where you get like 16W or maybe like 8Y or 4/5 X. They're actually writing it as multiplication, but they're not putting that little dot in between the two numbers. And if you ever over the course of the video see me doing exactly that, where I'm not writing the multiplication sign, that's why. My high school teacher brain has very well trained that I'm not required to write that multiplication sign every time. I'll try to be cognizant of it here though, because I know you need to get used to the system. So U times 6, 9 times 2 is 18. Opposite of multiplication is the next step. The opposite of multiplication is division. Divide by 6, divide by 6. And then if you know your math facts or your human calculator like Ms. Dubois, 18 divided by 6 is 3. So no oversimplifying yet. We're doing good so far. Next, cross multiply. So x times 9, we're just going to write that as x times 9. Then 6 times 6 is 36. The rhythm I had to learn when I was in elementary school. The opposite of multiplication, we have to get that x by itself. The opposite of multiplication is division. What we do to one side, we do to the other. 36 divided by 9 is 4. So we got lucky, although given that it's basic, that probably makes sense. Now let's tick it up a little bit and actually lean into the fact. You can see now, instead of saying simplify as much as possible, they are outright telling you round to the nearest tenth. So they know darn well they are giving you something that's not going to divide evenly. All right. So it's the same process. The math hasn't changed. It's just the answer is going to look a little bit more complicated. Not because of out of any meanness, but you're now ready to understand that the complicated looking answers doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. So cross multiply. We have 7 times u. 3 times 11 is 33. The opposite of multiplication is division. So what I do to one side, I do to the other. U equals whatever 33 over 7 is. And I'm a human calculator, but I'm not that good because I know for a fact it's going to be a decimal. So clear 33 divided by 7. Wow, look at that ugly mess. Oh my goodness, that hurts to look at. Now, over here in the directions, you'll see it rounds to the nearest tenth. So 4.714. So 4.714. Tenth, if you remember, is your first decimal place. So that's the number I'm going to be inputting. The number next to it is called my decision maker. I think I talked about this in the last video, but if this is your first time viewer, decision maker, what that means is if it's 5 or more, you round up. If it's 4 or less, you round down. In other words, rounding down is a fancy way of stay the same. Now in this case, because it's a 1, that's 4 or less, it stays. So my final answer is going to be 4.7. Next up, new verse, same as the first, cross multiply, 17 times y, and then 3 times 8 is 24. Now we have that multiplication, it's horning in on that y, and the y is saying, nah, miss, I want to be left alone. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide by the 17. And now we have to do 24 divided by 17, which I don't know. 24 divided by 17, enter. That's another unholy mess. What do we have? 411, 1.411. There's my tenths place. There is my decision maker. The 1 is 4 or less, so it stays, and therefore my answer is 1.4. I want to get a high one. We'll see if I get one. Let's see here. My third example, same as before. This is now my what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth problem doing this. We're going to cross multiply. So we have 11 times y, and then 17 times 6. Can I do that in my head? 60. My guess is going to be 104. Wish me luck. Let's pull out the calculator, and we're going to clear this, and we're going to do 17 times 6. 102. Ah, so close. Boo. All right. Erase that because it's 102. And now the next step is we want to divide. So we're going to undo the multiplication with division, undo the multiplication with division. And what is 102 divided by 11? I feel like my brain should know that. We'll find out. It's going to be 9 something, maybe 10. 9.27. Okay, so 9.27. Technically it's repeating, but I know some of you all might not know that, so we'll just say 9. Brush tool. What am I doing? 2. There we go. Silly computer. There's my tenths place, and there's my decision maker. And in this case, this is a 7. So now I'm finally in the 5 or more category, which means we round up. So in other words, instead of writing 9.2, we're going to round up to 9.3, and that's going to be our final answer. Now that we're used to just the bare bones basics of cross multiplying, let's see how we can set that up in an actual word problem. Now here is the love part of the love-hate relationship with the software. The software actually does a decent job of setting up how the equation looks in the sentence, because what they will do is they will give you one sentence, which is one of your proportions. So $5, that's the tax, and then 63 is the before. And I talked about this in my last video. I want to label which thing goes where so that when I get my second number, I will know where to put it. Because you'll notice this says before tax. Therefore, it's going to go here in the 50.40, and there's my unknown. And now it looks exactly like it did up in through here with a random spot that has an X and then 3 numbers everywhere else. What I'm going to do for my math brain is I'm going to erase the words just because visually they distract me, and that means I'll get my math wrong. 63 times 3x is 63x. 5 times 5040. Can I do that in my head? Let's see here. 50, except it's going to be... I have a guess. I have a guess that it's going to be 1252. We'll see. We're going to do clear. We're doing 5 times, what was it? 5040. 50.4t equals 252. Okay, I got an extra 1 in there somehow. How did I do that? Oh, the 5 times 5. I know what I did. I was doing 5 times 25. Silly Miss Dubois. All right, anyway. Now we have 63x equals 252. We're going to, that's multiplication again. The opposite of multiplication is division. The opposite of multiplication is division. So now I'm going to take this and divide by my 63. Enter. Hey, nice easy number. X equals 4. That's going to be the sales tax on the next item. Okay, and again, it's less about the math. By this point, you've done the math often enough that it won't be all that hard, or at least you remember the system really well. The thing that's new now is they're putting a word problem in it. But again, love part of the love-hate relationship with the software. There's your first half of the proportion. 320, and this is miles, over 12 gallons. And then we have 296 miles. Because it's miles, it matches with its friend. It has a neighbor. 296 is what's going to end up going there. And we don't know the other piece, so that becomes our x. Cross multiply. So 320 times x is just 320x times x. And now we have to do 12 times 296. And I can't do that in my head. So 12, no, not 11, 12 computer, times 296, enter, is 3552, 3552. Now the x we want to get by itself. It's being multiplied. The opposite of multiplication is division. The opposite is division. X equals, and now over here we're going to divide by 320. My guess is going to be 15. 11.1. Oh, okay, so I was close. 11.1. Now, oh, I don't think we were doing any rounding, so I think we're good there. Next, new sentence. Let's see here. So that's 247 volts. You'll notice now I'm done this enough times that I'm not actually reading the problem anymore. I'm not reading it out loud. Instead, I'm looking for my keywords because I know where to look that the first sentence is going to give me my proportion. I don't have to worry about parsing out each individual piece of the word problem. And that's in 26 minutes. And now this is 209, and that's going to be in volts. Computer, what did you just do? Computer. Give me a second here as my computer loses its gosh darn mind. Now will you work? Good computer. Brand new computer. Bought it over the summer. Still going to screw with me. Good job, computer. All right, bolts. Where was I? 209 bolts. That matches to the top. There we go. Okay, our entertainment for the day is done, hopefully. And then the unknown goes down here. Cross, multiply. I'm starting to go a little bit fast because we've done this now multiple times. We should be comfortable with how the formula is set up. So we have, let's see here, 247x equals whatever 26 times 209 is. Clear. 26 times 209, enter, is 5434. 5434. We're going to divide because we want the x by itself, 247. And now going to divide over here by 247 and get 22. See, I'm nervous now because I got 2 of these to be whole numbers and one of them was a decimal, and I wonder if I input something wrong in the calculator. Y'all can leave me a note in the comments whether I typed something wrong. But that's, again, we went into a lot more depth with how proportions work. You're cross multiplying and you're solving. Now, cross multiplying and solving actually comes up in another piece of mathematics, and that's percentages. But before we get too deep into how we use percentages in actual computation, what we want to get used to first is understanding what percentages look like. The thing with percentages, I'll put this up on the side. Percentages are always, capital letter, out of 100. That's the end point. That's the end goal. So you'll see here for these first ones, because this is a very basic conversion, you can see it's out of 100, out of 100, out of 100. Everything you can come up with would be, in fact, out of 100. What we're doing then is, if I actually pull this out in a calculator, and I can if I need to, but I want to show you how this works. What we're doing is, this is because it's a fraction, it's also worth remembering that fractions are division. So what we're ultimately doing on a calculator is we're doing 43 divided by 100. So if I actually go through this, and I don't trust my math facts, I'm just going to do 43 divided by 100, and there is my answer, 0.43. But here's what Ms. Dubois does, because again, Ms. Dubois is a human calculator. The thing I know about division, especially if I'm looking at a power of 10, so like 10, 100, 1,000, that kind of thing, is I know what I'm ultimately doing is I'm moving my decimal place. So if I decided to not do this as a division and I wanted to show off and do it in my head, I'm going to look at my 43 and I'm going to think, okay, that's a nice round, happy whole number. If it's a whole number, the decimal is over there. And since there's 2 zeros in my 100, I'm going to take that decimal over and move it over 1, 2 spaces. Because I'm dividing, I'm going to be moving to the left, and that will get me my 0.43. And you'll hear me say that in class a lot too. I don't even use a calculator even anymore. My brain just kind of does it automatically because I've done this so many times. So there's my 2. Nice round happy whole number. There's 2 zeros here, and so I'm going to move the decimal to the left 1, 2 places. Uh-oh, I have a blank. What number represents a blank? In other words, what number is used as a placeholder? 0. So my answer for this would be 0.02. Let's have another one. I already gave it away. Almost. 99. So 99, nice round whole number. I'm going to take my decimal, move it over 1, 2 places, and I'm going to get 0.99. What if I have 8 out of 100? That's 8. Take my decimal, move it over 1, 2, and it'll be 0.08. That's the kind of stuff that they're expecting you to do. And you get to see that again a little bit later, but that's just going from one way to another. We have the fraction and we change it to a percent. Now let's do the reverse. Here's the percent. I have to change it to a fraction. And please understand, ladies and gentlemen, when I first saw this topic, my teacher brain lost its gosh darn mind because of this sentence right here. It says, there is no need to simplify your answer. And a little piece of me died inside because I'm a math teacher. You have to simplify your answers. Universe, why did you do this to me? But fine, sure, the software is proving a point. And so if I have my 25%, we were talking about this before, because it's always out of 100, that means I'm just writing 25 out of 100. And like literally, that's all I need to say. This is a fraction, so it's 5. It's always out of 100, so 100. 15 as a fraction out of 100, 15 out of 100. 55 as a fraction, guess what? Out of 100. That's all you're doing when you're converting it. And I'm going to be honest, the math teacher is going to want me to say simplify, but for this specific topic, the software for once is nice to you, and they won't let you simplify until later. So, next up, finding the percentage, oh my God in heaven, finding the percentage of a grid that is shaded. I feel like a lot of kids already have exposure to this. Like, this is something that you learn, like, not even in middle school. I almost feel, my brain tells me this is an elementary school thing, but you guys tell me whether that's true or not. The trick here is that it is, of course, always going to be out of 100. Oh no, computer, you did the thing again. Stop that. undo, undo. Oh, computer. Brush tool, 100. There you go. Good, computer. All right, computer, I'm going to take the hint. You'll do a rest after this video. 100. All right. Now, I noticed they tell you it's 100 even squares, so that's what makes you know that it's going to be out of 100. That part's relatively easy. I found very rarely, but some kids have trouble kind of understanding how the count is. You can see them actually going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I love them for doing that, and it will work, and it's guaranteed, but sweet Jiminy Cricket, there's an easier way. Do not make yourself suffer that much. The trick here is that because it's a square, you know that it's a 10 by 10 grid. Knowing that, I have 3 rows of 10 here. That's 30. There, all of a sudden I have 30% of the shading, okay? Next, for this grid right here, I just need to count out what it is. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 6 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 by 6, and that is actually your hint. If it is a 6 by 6 grid, my shop kids, my carpenter kids, you've seen permutations of that in measurements, 6 by 6 grid. That is in fact multiplication. What's 6 times 6? 36. Add those up really fast, and it's 66% out of 100. So yes, by all means, if you're more comfortable counting out these squares individually, do so. I will never naysay, but there is a shorter or at least faster way to do it if your mental math is up to the challenge. For this one, I am again going to split it off into 2 pieces. So I'm going to split it off there, back to 50%. This is 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 by 4, that's 12. And now this one is 1, 2, 3, so 3 by, and how many is here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3 by 8, that's 24. What is 12 plus 24? 36. And there's my answer. Let's see here. For this one, we have this cute little 9 by 9, 4 by, we have this cute little 3 by 3 grid, which means that it's 9. And you can see that I've done this so many times that my brain just jumps right to the answer and skips all of the math involved. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to be, I can tell at a glance that that's 45, but again, human calculator, I'm again doing another trick. Because this is a 10 grid, it's 5 by 10, which is 50. And this row has been left, so I'm subtracting 5 in order to do it. So for those of you who are okay with your mental math, but you want to get a little bit better at it, these are the kinds of things that Ms. Dubois does when I'm doing rapid computation in my head. Now, what is 9 plus 45? 54, and ergo, your final answer is going to be 54 out of 100. The counter to that is instead of having a region that's already shaded, they are going to expect you to shade a grid. Now this topic, I was expecting it to actually be legitimately harder than it actually is, but every single iteration, I must have gone through 10 or 20 different examples, and every single one seems to be out of 20 equal parts. So now we're going to talk a little bit about equal parts. Here's the thing with equal parts. If you're doing out of 20, you need to convert it to, or no, excuse me, I did that backwards, my bad. We are going out of 100. We have 60% out of 100, and we want to convert it to 20. Oh, it's a proportion. Again, so we know what we're doing. We're going to cross multiply 100x equals 1200. And now we're at the point where Ms. Dubois doesn't need a calculator. You're going to see the human calculator kind of go here. We're going to divide by 100, divide by 100. And like I was saying in an earlier topic, that means I take the 1200, move the decimal over, and so I'm shading in 12 points. So let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. Ta-da! Oops. Okay, let me make it perfect. There you go. Ta-da! All done. Next, same thing is going to happen over here. So we have that 60, 65. Oh, computer, come on, do thing. First row. 60. Oh, my Lord. 65. There we go. Good, computer. Out of 100 equals some unknown out of 20. cross multiply. So 100x equal cross multiply. Ms. Dubois, actually show your work. Come on, set a good example. So 100x equals, what's 65 times 20? 120, 130, divide by 100. Wait a second. 65, no, 65 doubled, so that's 120. Yeah, 1300. Okay, my brain stopped working for a second. Move the decimal over because I'm dividing by 100. We were doing that earlier, so that means I'm going to be shading 13 spaces. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 spaces. That's everything that I'm shading, this entire box right here. Ta-da! Now we do it again. We have 90% out of the 100 grid, and there's 20 total pieces here that we need to look out for. So 100, cross multiply, Ms. Dubois, show your work. 100x equals 90 times 20, which is 1800. Divide by 100, divide by 100, which basically means I'm just moving the decimal over to the left 2 spaces. So I'm shading in 18 pieces of my grid. So it's gonna look something like that. Ta-da! Now, these two topics, this one up here and this one down here, I feel as though most kids test already into this topic, but just in case, it's all covered and you don't have to worry about it. Now, last couple of topics before we end off the video. What have we got here? Converting a percentage to a decimal. And we've already seen, you've seen me do my little trick a couple of times in these earlier topics. So I have that 7%. It's a nice round whole number. I'm converting it to a decimal, so I'm going to move it over 2 places, and my answer is 0.07. Now I have 9% as a decimal. Move it over 2 places. My answer is 0.09. 85, there's my decimal. I move it over 2 places, and therefore 0.85 is my final answer. And now the last thing to do is to do the reverse of that, to go instead from a percent to a decimal, from a decimal to a percent. So now instead of moving the decimal to the left, we're going to be moving the decimal to the right. So 0.64, I'm going to move it over 2 to become 64%. 0.05, I'm going to move the decimal to the right 2, and it becomes 5%. Then I move 0.01, move it over to the right 2 places, and I have 1%. And for a sneak preview for later topics, what if I have something like 0.125? I move the decimal over 2. That's where it stops, so my answer would be 12.5%. There's a little sneak preview of stuff we're doing later. As always, that's everything for, we did 2 whole subsections of this goal. There's only 2 sections left. Both of them are low-key kind of big, and we're going to talk about them in separate videos. But as always, stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. I'll see you in the next one. End transmission.